Back now with more on that shooting in Afghanistan with our chief White House correspondent Norah O'Donnell and national security correspondent David Martin. What's the latest over at the White House, Norah?
Well, President Obama has been briefed about this U.S. soldier who opened fire on Afghan civilians. And Bob, this could not come at a more sensitive time. President Obama was just speaking with President Karzai on Thursday in a video teleconference. They're in the midst of negotiating a broader strategic agreement to help transition U.S. forces out of Afghanistan from a combat role to a training role. In May, there's going to be a huge NATO summit in Chicago where this is the discussion. How do we pull more forces and accelerate the transition? And so this really is going to be a huge story, I think, this coming week for this president and our situation in Afghanistan.
You just heard Newt Gingrich say it's time to leave, that this just didn't work. David, I know you left to go make a few more calls. Did you turn up anything more?
Well, you know, the commander in Afghanistan, General John Allen, is in Washington this week because he's testifying on Capitol Hill. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was General Allen himself who briefed the president on this incident. They recognize this as an incident as serious as that burning of the Koran.
David, let me ask you this question. How could a lone U.S. soldier with his weapon walk out the gate, which is guarded, of his base, and walk out into the community? I mean, people don't go anywhere alone in Afghanistan.
Well, it's happened once before, and an American soldier walked off his base, and he's been a hostage ever since. How this guy managed to do it, particularly after whatever mistakes they learned had been made when that first soldier walked off, I can't tell you.
But this is now a concern about the safety of our soldiers that are over there in Afghanistan. After the Koran burning, some of our soldiers were killed. Others were shot point blank in the back of their head. So they are really concerned that Afghans will want to retaliate. This inflames things that are already going in Afghanistan. And Bob, already after the Koran burning, you heard some Democrats on Capitol Hill saying it's time to get out more quickly of Afghanistan. I bet we'll see more of that this week from Democrats who say, why are we in Afghanistan? It's time to leave. And it's just coming at this time when this discussion is underway about pulling forces out.
And with people like Newt Gingrich joining in, you already have Ron Paul who says we had no business there in the first place. But now Gingrich was pretty strong today. I mean, it was almost like he said, you know, we made a mistake here, and there's not much else to be said about it. It's time to kind of pick up our stuff and leave.
Well, it just goes to show you in a presidential election. I mean, this was a good news week for President Obama because of the jobs numbers, and then foreign policy enters into the debate. This is going to be a difficult thing for President Obama to manage, and the Republicans will have to talk about how they would do things differently and explain how they would position our forces in the coming year in Afghanistan.
Isn't that the truth, though, David? I mean, we never seem to talk about foreign policy very much in presidential campaigns, and then, you know, all of a sudden, the presidency becomes all about foreign policy.
Well, if you look at the last several months, look what's happened to our policy in Afghanistan. First, we had that cross-border incident with the Pakistanis, in which American aircraft shot up a Pakistani border post and killed 25 Pakistani soldiers. Relations with Pakistan still haven't recovered. The supply routes through Pakistan are still closed. Then you have the burning of the Koran, which forces the commander in Afghanistan to pull all of his advisors out of the Afghan ministries for fear of retaliation. They're still not all back in the ministries. And now you have this, which is obviously going to be another setback. War is a huge undertaking. It can withstand a number of mistakes. But when they start to pile up and accumulate in an atmosphere of war weariness.
But I think it doesn't change what are the fundamental basics of this, which is that this administration has already decided to accelerate the transition. Secretary Panetta told a group of Pentagon reporters that we were going to be transitioning out of a combat role probably by the end of this year. So we'll be down to 68,000 troops in Afghanistan this summer. I think you could see a significant drawdown after the fighting season, and that's going to be part of this debate, this presidential debate about bringing U.S. troops home and out of Afghanistan.
In an odd kind of way, I wonder if this doesn't sort of help the president speed up that, because I think you are going to have more people like Newt Gingrich, for example, who say, wait, we just got to get ourselves extricated from this thing.
Well, I think politically it will be difficult for those Republicans that argue to stay in Afghanistan to make that argument given these current situations, certainly.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you this morning for bringing us some insight into this awful, awful development.